So today what we shall deal with is a study of polarization itself, as to how we kind of characterize polarization of a wave. What are, so we have learned what the materials are. Okay, I mean, what these stuff which sort of rotate polarization and change polarization of an input wave, of an input light field are. Now what we shall do today is basically understand how you characterize, or rather what is the mathematical depiction of polarization, how you understand the interaction of polarized light or even unpolarized light, any kind of light, with these polarized, I mean, polarization active media, media which can actually bring about change in polarization. That we shall try to understand. And this is again, as some of you, I know some of you have done this to a certain extent, especially the BSMS students who have done the Advanced Optics Lab course. You guys have done this Stokes-Muller. So this is called the Jones and the Stokes-Muller formalisms, where we actually use very nice algebra to understand how these, how you depict polarization of light, as well as the polarization characteristics of optical devices. So remember, in our setup for trapping a nanoparticle or a microparticle, whatever, we have these half-wave plates and polarizing beam splitter cubes. So they interact with polarized light, and they can bring about a change in the polarization state of light. So how this is done, what is the inherent algebra there, is what we're going to look at. So I will not go in too much of detail because some part is covered. So can you see my screen? You see my screen,
Yes,
brother?
sir.
Okay. So, acha. So basically, this is polarization algebra of light and optical devices, and I would like you to refer uh, chapter 6 of the textbook that we have written. So this is basically this book called Basic Wave Optics, Basic Concepts and Contemporary Trends. This is Datta Gupta, Ghosh, and Banerjee. So this chapter is being written by Nirmal Loh, and at present he's probably the most you know equipped person, I would say, in the country, or I would say one of the best physicists in the world in terms of doing this polarization algebra. I mean, he was sort of he's been trained in this kind of stuff, experiments as well as theory, from his very his PhD days or even before that, just after his masters. So he's really an authority on this. So the textbook, I mean, this chapter 6 is very detailed. I mean, you can basically, if you read it properly, there is very little that you will not understand. There are lots of references as well. Whatever you cannot understand, you can look at it. But of course, we will discuss uh, most of the important stuff. I cannot really go off. I will not cover the entire chapter because there's a lot of details. But this is something which is I would recommend. I think this book itself is nice if you want a general overview of wave optics as well as some pretty advanced topics. But I also feel that that some basic topics are, because we incorporated a lot of stuff. So some of the basics, these topics are probably not given in detail as much of detail as a person, as a beginner, would really like. But it's still a useful book, I guess. So by the way, another very important thing. So this entire polarization algebra business is very intimately connected with quantum mechanics, with the Dirac algebra that we have there. With sigma. The way we uh, describe polarized light is very close to the spin, the way we describe spin in quantum mechanics, the 0, 1, 1, 0 states, all that, and then also the spinor representations that we have in the Dirac algebra, that is very close to something that we call here the Stokes vectors. Okay, so the whole thing is very similar. There is also an eigenvalue problem here, which I actually will not deal, because that is a bit of a detail. I mean, that is pretty advanced, but it is given in the book. So if you are interested, you can actually go at it. So of course, there are, this part I will go over a bit quickly, but that an electric field, so the first depiction of, the most basic depiction of polarization is given by the Jones algebra. And how does that work? So basically, we describe the electric field, which is always propagating in the Z direction, as if I write it in, so basically if the k vector goes in the Z, that means the electric field is in the X and Y. Again, I'm working in plane wave and parax. I mean, I'm not really going into details of, this is a plane wave. So that's it. This is a plane wave, not a beam, no component in the Z direction. Okay. So basically I can write this in terms of a simple column vector as something like E0x cos of kz minus omega t minus some delta x, and E0y cos of, again, kz minus del y omega t minus some delta y. And where what is this k, however, is complex, very important. This time we are not, we are absolutely not saying that this is now simple k vector that you have. This is actually a complex quantity. This is the attenuation. This is the imaginary part. This is the real part. This gives rise to absorption. This gives rise to transmission, or this decides the phase velocity of the wave, right? So what is polarization? So polarization, I know you guys are aware, but let me just write this. By the way, can you simply say what polarization is? Somebody simply say in one line. Yeah. What polarization of the wave? How can I, what can I write it as?
The direction traced by the tip of the
Yeah.
electric field.
So basically, trajectory of the E field in the XY plane. This is typically what is polarization. The tip is tip of the field. Whatever. Absolutely fine. So very quickly, I can sort of just write down that, so we have a ratio of amplitudes which are given by this is some tan nu, which is given by some this ratio of that E0x, and we have a relative phase, that is del y minus delta x. And so this depiction, this Jones algebra, essentially was given by Jones. So this guy, I got to know his full name. His name is R. Clark Jones. Okay, R. Clark Jones. So I think in sometime time I've forgotten, probably 20s. Or just check the book. It's some, I've forgotten the time. Muller is about 1940, in the 40s, but Jones is earlier, I guess. So he gave this description that E is given by some, just a column vector, that is the components of Ex and Ey, which is necessarily complex, and which I basically just write down as some E0 exponential minus I delta x, and this one also is E0 exponential minus I delta y, right? And one can say that, uh, so very importantly, this is describing a pure polarized electric field. We'll come to what impure polarization or partial polarization might mean. But essentially what this is trying to tell you is how the resultant E vector, which is basically given by this one and that one, how sort of So you, if you remember your, you know, the things that we learned in second year, the Lissajous figures, right? So when you plot EY versus EX, then the resultant, depending on the phase difference between those, basically this one, oh, this is X of course, this might transcribe different figures, and that is essentially what polarization is all about. Okay, so I will just use some of these diagrams of the paper, and that will sort of, I think these are very nicely done, so this will help you understand also. uh, why this does not, this is a very nice figure. Okay, so this is actually very clearly depicting this whole thing. So I am essentially plotting my EY0 versus EX0. In general, this is the electric field, and this will describe an ellipse with this, as you say, is very nicely written. So the ratio is given by this tan nu. I mean, this is E0 by E0 by EX, E0 EY0 by EX0, that is the tan nu. And importantly, this alpha, this one, is the angle of the azimuth, which is essentially how the major axis is rotated with respect to this x. And another very crucial thing is this epsilon, which is the eccentricity of the ellipse. And this is the one which is very crucial in determining the handedness of this ellipse. So if you have, yeah, as it's very nicely written, so if you have epsilon positive or negative, essentially describes the handedness of the polarization state, right? So just think of, this is the electric vector, how it is precessing, in what direction. If it's positive, we typically consider this to be left-handed polarization, left-handed elliptical polarization. If it is negative, we typically consider it as right-handed elliptical polarization. Okay, so epsilon positive is LCP and epsilon negative is RCP. This is how it works. So now let me ask you. So okay, so suppose, given that you know that uh, what, you know, how you would take a linearly polarized light and how you would convert it to elliptically polarized light, and I mean circularly polarized light, elliptically polarized light, that you know. But suppose I ask you this question: how would you measure this epsilon, this eccentricity of a randomly elliptically polarized light? What, how would you do it? You understand my question? So this is basically, so when this is 45 degrees, this is essentially a circle. Okay, when this is 45, you get a circle. But when this is randomly any other number, you will get elliptically polarized, right? As at 45 degrees, basically plus 45 is LCP, minus 45 is RCP. How would you measure epsilon for arbitrarily elliptical polarization?
Sir, we know we will try to find out the intensity in x and y direction, and we know the relation between eccentricity and
No, but
main.
how? No, Rohan, experimentally, how will you do?
We will,
Experiment. I'm telling you an experiment.
uh,
So experiment when I'm trying to tell, I am asking you to find out the epsilon. I mean, theory is very simple. I'm saying experimentally. Experimentally, how will you determine? So experimentally, how do you determine epsilon? This is my question. And yeah, if you want, I can give you. I mean, you should be able to say this. Yeah. Obviously, there are two optical elements you will need. But yeah,
Sir, how
what will
epsilon is constructed?
epsilon is just the eccentricity, right? So
Sir,
this is
it's not eccentricity is not an angle.
no, no. I mean, this is basically. I'm sorry. It's I mean, so uh, well, so this is well. Actually this is given by the angle. Well, I'm sorry. This is ellipticity actually, not really eccentricity. It actually tells you the angle between this minor axis and this one. This one. So essentially, uh, wait, so this is exactly. Uh, so this angle is yeah. So as you see here, it is basically the if you just see this, this is my these are my two axes, right? So alpha by azimuth angle is the angle between the major axis and the x-axis, okay? And epsilon or the ellipticity is the angle between the major. I mean, you join these two, right? That gives you the ellipticity of this thing actually. Okay. So just this is the major axis, this is the minor axis. You take this end and you this is the angle. So when this is exactly the same, when this is 45 degrees, then you will get a circle.
Sir,
Okay,
Okay, so when
then
this is circle mana, it is exactly like that, and then you will basically get a 45-degree angle. So this is like the ellipticity, you can say. Not
okay,
eccentricity, this is the ellipticity, right?
yeah, this is electricity. So what was your question
So
again?
my question is, how do I determine? So see, if I have elliptically polarized light, epsilon is basically giving you the characteristic of the elliptically polarized light. Okay, so when it is 45 degrees, you have circular. The when it is positive or negative, it gives you the handedness. Okay, so suppose I am having random epsilon for an elliptically polarized light. How will you measure that in an experiment?
sir, I don't know how to do it through Jones
No,
algebra,
think of
but
it. No, see,
if
bolo.
you use Stokes algebra, you can determine the Q and U, and then using the Q and U relation, I think there's a relation between eccentricity.
Yeah, but there is simpler things, man. Gee, basically, see, you have to project out this, right? You have to project this thing out, this epsilon, alpha, etc. You can just project them out, right? Somehow. How do you? So, see, I mean, just think of this, right? Somehow you have to convert this into linear polarization, and then by an analyzer, you can easily get the angles out, right?
Sir,
Think of
we
it.
can measure nu.
Huh?
We can measure nu
How?
from the
Again, don't go by theory.
so
Experimentally, how will you measure? You have random light. How will you measure nu? Again, you guys are too much theoretically minded. So just think of it. You basically have to get this out into first project this out into some kind of a linear polarization. And then you have to obviously
We
use
can
an
use a
analyzer, right?
we have
Ah,
to use a polarizer plate, half quarter wave plate, something like that, to
nah, but
convert
how will you get that? How will you measure? Again, yeah, of course. If you put a what half?
a quarter wave plate.
Exactly, exactly. Quarter wave plate, and then what?
Um, After that, I don't know, but to convert to linear, I guess you have to use quarter wave plate, and then we
Yeah,
can
and then what will you do?
measure the angles that the light
No,
the
man. If you want to see, basically, you need to find out. See, again, I'm asking you to actually quantify this epsilon. So remember, this the orientation of this ellipse with respect to my x-axis is given by alpha orientation, and if and my So angle of this sort of, whether it's right-handed or left-handed, and whatever this ellipticity is, that is characterized by epsilon, right? So I first need, so that means, as Rohan said, I need to first project this to linear polarization, right? Of course, I will use a quarter wave plate, and after that I will use a polarizer. So think of it, if I have a quarter wave plate with its slow axis, basically slow axis means the extraordinary thing. The slow axis means typically we have positive anisotropic crystal, so that means, I mean, sorry, positive uniaxial crystal, which means that the E ray, the Ne is greater than No. So that means my that, so if I basically have the quarter wave plate aligned to alpha with respect to, I mean, rather this light, or yeah, so the quarter wave plate is at the slow axis is with an angle alpha with respect to the to this beam, or whatever this incident beam, right? Then what happens? Then this quarter wave plate will just rotate this object, right? It will rotate this ellipse, right? So then the total, it will basically project out. So obviously with Jones and Jones algebra, you can easily write this very simply, but you can check it out. If you basically have a quarter wave plate with its slow axis with an angle alpha with respect to the incident, with respect to the electric field, then that quarter wave plate will project out this light to a linear polarized light with an angle of alpha plus epsilon. Because basically now just think of this thing as rotated. This ellipse is rotated, right? So that the vector, basically it will become a linear polarized vector. It will, with respect to the x-axis, it will just have this whole epsilon gets rotated, right? So this will now have an angle of alpha plus epsilon. So then what you do, you just have your linear your polarizer, that is, that you essentially have to rotate. It's the polarizer that you have, that essentially has to be rotated at an angle epsilon with respect to the optic axis of the quarter wave plate. Get it? So the total thing that you do is actually alpha plus epsilon. So one is that, so essentially what you do is align QWP slow axis, very crucial, at angle of alpha with respect to incident beam, and second is align a linear polarizer with at, sorry,
Sir, how do we know alpha?
we don't, of course. So basically what you do, Rohan, is trial and error. So what I'm trying to do is, when you do that, basically when you align LP at angle epsilon with respect to fast axis or optic axis of QWP, you get zero intensity outside LP. So basically you search for zero intensity. Okay, you just search for zero intensity. So you
Sir,
basically have to keep, rotating both quarter wave plate and alpha, and your linear polarizer, until at the end of the linear polarizer you get zero. So only when you have the quarter wave plate at alpha with respect to the fast axis, or I mean, sorry, with respect to the slow axis of the quarter wave plate, yeah, the incident light, and the linear polarizer at epsilon with respect to the with respect to the optic axis of the quarter wave plate, you will basically finally have the linear polarizer at 90 degree to the thing that is coming out. Okay, so you will get zero intensity.
sir, then isn't it better to measure the Stokes vector and then get the
Yeah, that is, yeah, but Stokes vector also, how do you measure? Yeah, Stokes
We
vector,
can,
you essentially have to measure all these things only, na? Yeah, okay. Stokes vector is, yeah, you can just measure, do those four measurements.
right,
Yeah, that is correct. You will get that. But I think even if you don't know that, by a combination of quarter wave plate and polarizer, you can still measure. So just think of it. How do you get? So suppose you have just quarter wave plate. I mean, you have 45-degree light, and you put a quarter wave plate, right? So if you put it at 45, quarter wave plate at 45, you get 90-degree, right? So then if you have a polarizer which is at like just 45 plus 45, right, which is at 90-degree with respect to the initial one, you will get zero. Think of it that way, right? When you have a quarter wave plate at 45-degree with circular polarized light, the output will be 90-degree off. So
right,
then the linear polarizer you just keep at minus 90. You understand? So I can do the sum. See, I can put the quarter wave plate at minus alpha. If I put at minus alpha, then basically the linear polarizer has to be kept at just whatever. I mean, if it's minus alpha, then ulta, it has to be at minus epsilon. Okay. So essentially you project it out as linear polarization. Then you put the linear polarizer at orthogonal. And of course you can use Stokes vector. That is for sure. That is so, but that needs a, so this is just but so this is like trial and error. So typically what we do is, if you have a randomly polarized light, so you take randomly polarized electrically polarized light, you take a quarter wave plate, you first keep it at 45, and then you use a polarizer and then see if you can attenuate it. If you do not attenuate it, then again you rotate the quarter wave plate, and this is a basic method of trial and error. Then you can, of course, if you measure the Stokes algebra things, then just by four measurements you can get it. But this is also a way by which you can find out the ellipticity of light, of randomly elliptically polarized light.
So
Okay,
there are too many free parameters, and
I agree. This is a long measurement. Yeah, this is not a very easy thing. You have to keep on changing both. But I'm saying that this is a, well, you can. It's not too much, Hitesh. Once you have a sense of experiments, you will figure out. कि एक direction में घुमाया, then you see the, so you initial has to be random. Random direction में रखो, उसको भी random देखो, and you see the attenuation. Suppose it's very less, then you go the ulta direction. Then you see ki acha zyada, it has increased more. I mean, the attenuation has increased more. Then you go in the same direction. Okay, and then just see that, when you are crossing the minimum, then again thoda iteratively if you are experienced enough, it will take you about 10 minutes to figure out. But of course the Stokes measurement is a more, I mean, just those four measurements you do, any electricity, that I agree. But this is also possible. For somebody who does not know Stokes, this is also possible. That is the only thing. Okay. Anyway, so let us go to the more conventional stuff, the way people generally do this. So of course the Jones algebra, yeah, so the Jones vector describes polarization states of light, and there is something called the Jones matrix that actually gives you the polarization properties of any optical device. This is also very nice. So what it does is, you basically have input. So suppose I have, so optical device mane kya? I mean, I'm optical device, some which affect your polarization, some which do not affect. If it does not affect your polarization, is basically a unit vector, say a mirror or a lens. They don't affect polarization, so there is no change. So essentially what I'm saying is, you have a J out and a J in. So this is, so suppose you have a half wave plate or a quarter wave plate, or some kind of an SLM as well, that also is there. SLM is much more complicated, Jones mein nahi hota hai. But anyway, something which is polarized, active in terms of polarization, okay, which is an active optical element. Typically active optical element, we call those which play with the phases, the phases of light. Okay, so mirror lens don't play with phases, but they, absolute phase is not really important. I'm talking about relative phases. Okay, those are active optical elements, right? So basically, the if you have a J out and you put it, sorry, if you have a J in, sorry, if you have an input Jones vector and it is incident on a quarter wave plate or some polarization active element, you basically have some M, which is the Jones matrix of that element, and that into J in. So this M basically has obviously four elements: M11, M12, M21, M22, and this so this will actually tell you how the element will influence the polarization of the input light. Okay, so simple things like quarter wave plates, etc. You can in principle form this. If you know that a quarter wave plate is something which changes by 45 degrees, then you can essentially, you know what your J in and J out are, and then you can construct. What is interesting is if you have a rotated optical element, if you have a rotated optical element, for example a polarizer, so one can so for example, if you have X polarized light and if you have a polarizer which is at X, a same axis, then obviously it is trivial, then your J in and J out are same. You can easily construct the matrix, the Jones matrix for the polarizer, which is along the y-axis, or if it is 90 degrees, essentially your input will be so like 1 0 and your output will be 0 0 if it is a 90 degrees. So you can just say that what the polarizer that is 90 degrees, that will be what the Jones matrix for it will be. But what happens if I have a polarizer which is at an arbitrary angle theta, right? So for example, a polarizer oriented at theta with respect to electric field of input light. So then what we do, we essentially use, right, invert sort of apply a rotational transform. So this is nothing but you just apply this kind of a rotational transform to the not the Jones vector for the unrotated optical element, and you get the rotated thing. So this R alpha is nothing but the well-known rotation matrix: cos alpha, sin alpha, minus sin alpha, cos alpha. So using this, you can get anything. Okay, so essentially what you have here is something like, so your Ex dash Ey dash is equal to some J11, J12, J21, J22, Ea, Ex, Ey. And this is the interesting part. So what I will do is, again, I will just give you the some kind of, so these are again some conventional Jones vectors. This is there in the, I think it's important to keep these in the notes.
Sir, what is alpha?
Alpha is the, okay, sorry. Alpha, oh, so shit. Alpha is the angle of the device with respect to x-axis. So polarizer, if it is theta with respect to the lab frame or the x-axis of the electric field. Okay, with respect to that.
Okay.
Hey, why does it not zoom out, man? I just don't understand this. So these are the basic stuff. I mean, you can just get all this. This is very simple. Most of you know this. So why does this factor come? So this is a normalization factor. So you know that the critical some stuff is, that you need to have the total the total intensity and all need to be, if it is 1. So basically what we so right is so if it is like fully polarized, a wave is fully polarized, then you have basically E0 x squared plus E0 y squared. And that, if I want that to be one, for example, x polarized light, if the total intensity has to be one, if I do by the Jones thing, I will get a half, right? So in order to get it to one, I put a normalization of 1 by root 2. Okay, so this is something that 1 by root 2 basically comes because I want to keep the I sort of get the normalized intensity to 1. Okay, so this is fine, this is absolutely fine, but the important thing is that one needs to keep in mind is that the Jones representation caters to pure states. This is very crucial. Very, very crucial. This is only for pure polarization states. Now, the problem is that most optical objects, most light that you have in nature or whatever, actually are not perfectly polarized. This is very crucial. Most stuff actually will induce a bit of depolarization always. So that is where we the heck is, why is this not zooming out? I don't understand. I think it's wrong today with this guy. Anyway, so let me just still write. So basically, real optical materials tend to be depolarizing to at least a certain extent. So pure polarization states are actually virtually impossible. You don't get perfect polarization for anything. Okay. Now, so remember that we were talking about when in the Fresnel equation thing, right? We had a long discussion about how do the Fresnel equations transform, or what are they when you have randomly polarized light and all that, right? Remember, so that time I had told you that you could do the experiment for random light and all. So now, do you think that how can we define, so can we define a degree of polarization based on intensity measurements, based on intensity measurements of random light? Don't assume you know Stokes and Jones. You don't know. I mean, sorry, you don't know Stokes and all. Of course, if you know, it's very simple. But suppose you don't know. Suppose I'm saying that there is a degree of polarization. Can we take, suppose I tell you that I am giving you a quarter wave plate and a linear polarizer. Okay. Using that, using those, can you actually come out with a quantity? Can you measure the polarization of a random light source? What is your answer?
Sir, I think like I'm
Hmm?
trying to preempt with the Stokes thing, but
I don't, no, no. Think of what we discussed just now. Just now. We can just think of this. Just think of this, Rohan. We just discussed that you can actually completely attenuate a pure polarization state using a combination of quarter wave plate and linear polarizer. Do you agree with that?
yes, sir.
Then you should be able to say. Then what is the degree of polarization? Can be defined. Saying that we can actually attenuate completely, then what do you think we can define as the degree of polarization?
Degree of polarization is like something which is not attenuated upon. Uh,
Yeah, correct. Very good. So basically, it is very similar to something that we called contrast. Nothing but this. Nothing but this. If you have a QWP and LP for arbitrary light source, you can basically define DOP, degree of polarization, by this very clearly. If your if it's perfectly, if you have perfect polarization, what is your I min? I min is what?
Zero.
Zero.
Right? So very clearly your DOP will lie between this. It has to be a positive quantity and it has to be between 0 and 1. So it's very cool, right? If you can actually measure the polarization or the lack of it in any arbitrary light by just measuring intensity. And this, friends, this is the root of the Stokes-Muller algebra that we devise for, in measurements of light, in polarization measurements of light for almost all experiments. The Stokes-Muller algebra is what is typically used. Okay, but before that, before we go to Stokes-Muller, we have to define some other very important thing, which is, I would say, even more basic than the Stokes-Muller algorithm that we use. And that is, so Stokes-Muller, I'm sure when most of you know, it is basically a 4x1 vector. The Muller matrix is a 4x4 matrix. But before that, we can actually define something in 2x2, which defines depolarization. Are you guys aware of that? A 2x2 matrix rendition of light of polarization states, which actually which will describe depolarization. Basically, something like, again, drawing parallel to quantum mechanics, you have the the this dead your density thing, rho, right? You have mixed states and pure states, right? So Jones matrix is basically for pure states, but for mixed states, that is what you really have, right? Some kind of expectation value you have, right? So that is exactly translated here. So instead of, yeah, so anybody is aware of this? What is this thing called?
So
Some
I think it's the coherency matrix.
very good,
Is it?
exactly, the coherency matrix. So in quantum mechanics, when you do the density of states, when you do mixed states, you essentially go to nothing but expectation values, right? So this is exactly what we do here. Obviously we don't do expectation value here, is the time averages. So the coherency matrix is very important, and this is what includes the effects of depolarization. Very, very important. And how do you define a coherency matrix? It is the defects of polarization, which is essentially partially polarized states. Okay. And you define the coherency matrix as phi. This is always how it is written as. Essentially, it is just the Jones vector tensor product with the transpose of the of a Jones vector. Okay. So that is basically given by, so obviously if you have a 2x1 vector here, so if you do a tensor product, it will become nothing but a 2x2 matrix, right? So that will become Ex, Ex star, Ex, Ey star, Ey Ex star and Ey Ey star. This is very, very interesting. So basically your E is the Jones vector and E transpose is the basically the transpose conjugate of E. Remember, this is for light. This is only for light. Okay, so this is the thing that define the partially polarized states of light. Very important. And there are Acha, again, basically because these are the steps that we take in order to define an intensity based depiction of polarization. Okay, and because it is intensity based, you directly get some kind of properties of this straight. And what are the properties? Phi is Hermitian and two very crucial, that is it is non-negative. Non-negative, because again this deals with time average of intensities, it cannot be negative. Okay, so therefore you can say that any 2 by 2 matrix which obeys these two conditions, they can actually describe a physically realizable polarization state. Very important. So any 2 cross 2 matrix.
Sir, how do you
Which,
measure the intensity of EX EY star expecting your expectation of EX EY star?
no, this is EX square. Yeah, so
No, I'm talking about the cross diagonal terms.
so yeah, so these are basically, if you think, so when if you write down, see, these are essentially, see, experimentally measurable is an issue, but when this is coherency matrix is something that you build to, for an experimental measurement, you typically always will resort to the Stokes vector type of thing. Okay, but experimentally, I mean, theoretically you can easily write down, right?
No, you said
Theoretically you just write down the
it is intensity
equation and
based.
then take star and
So
all that, right?
off diagonal elements, like how do you measure that? That was my question.
Experimentally you're saying, na?
Yes, sir. You said this is
Experimentally, see, again, Hitesh, coherency matrix is something that we describe for light. Okay, so experimentally you straight go to the Stokes condition. Okay, and so this is very clear, right? So this one, if you look at it, EXEY star is nothing but two, it is just your EXEY cos 45 degrees, right? This is nothing but your just 2 E0x E0y cos delta. Okay, so this is the phase angle between them. So one of them is cos delta, the other is sine delta. Okay, but then don't think of experimentally measuring them. We are so okay. So so let me say that. So essentially, this is nothing but, if again I'm preempting a bit, in the Stokes thing, this is nothing but the part of the 45-degree minus 45-degree, and this one is essentially the RCP minus LCP. Okay, so you will extract out the phase. So these are essentially the relative phase between EX and EY. Okay, so measurement, when we are talking about, then we go to the Stokes rendition, where there are very standard ways of measuring. So essentially these are, one of them is the linear 45 minus linear minus 45 or 135, other one is LCP minus RCP.
So taking the time average won't make the phase zero, right?
No, it's a cos delta. No,
The phase
cos
part won't
delta
be
is
zero.
there, cos squared
Yeah,
delta basically.
yeah. So
Cos squared delta will not be zero. No?
yeah, so we won't be able to measure the thing in
Yeah,
experiment.
measure coherency matrix. You don't want to measure, right? That is basically a depiction of depolarization. So measurement always comes with Stokes and all, Stokes and whatever Jones or Muller. Okay,
Yeah,
this
that
is
is
basically a depiction of the depolarization. How do you describe something? When you measure it, see, measurement, I will again say, go by this. You want to measure your intent is what? Your intent is to measure the depolarization, right? You just measure the degree of polarization by this. You don't care about this thing. Na? This is a theoretical way of representing partially polarized states. But how much is the degree of polarization? You can easily do an intensity measurement and measure.
Oh, that is fine. The degree of polarization part is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So that is basically, so what we are trying to say is that if you are depicting light of of partially polarized light, then the coherency matrix is the way of showing that. When we do any measurement, we almost exclusively resort to Stokes vector type of analysis, because this term that you can say is essentially nothing but the 45 degree minus 45 degree. But that will be much more clear when you do the Stokes vector part. I mean Stokes and Jones. I mean Stokes Muller, that thing actually. Okay. So what is very important, however, as I was writing, any 2x2 matrix which obeys these properties can serve as a valid coherency matrix. Okay, and there are some other very important properties again which will come out of this, which are, which we can actually even try to preempt. That is, acha, can you tell me, so what will be the trace of phi? What can we say about that in terms of its value? Trace mane this. What will be this phi, this thing?
It's the intensity, right? Of the
So that will be always this.
gradient.
Has to be always greater than 0. Nothing but the intensity. So this has to be greater than 0. Very crucial, right? And the determinant. What about that? What can you say about that? What can we say about determinant? Means this minus this. What will that be? What can you say about that? In this same vein. What? When it is perfectly polarized, then what will you have? Yeah? When it's totally polarized, completely polarized, determinant will be? Huh? क्या होगा? When it's completely polarized,
Also greater than 0, right?
equal, very important. When it is completely polarized, determinant is 0. So actually, a positive determinant is nothing but a measure of depolarization, right? Because these off-diagonal terms essentially will become non-zero then, when it will be basically lesser than this. Okay, so when you do a time average thing, you will actually, for when you have a totally polarized light, this minus this will become 0 because these are same then. But when you have partially polarized light, this determinant will actually be greater than 0. So this essentially this measures, the determinant is a measurement of the unpolarized component, right? So basically, you know that your degree of polarization is nothing but your I polarized content by the I total. So this is the how much is polarized by how much is total. And if I just, it is very, you can easily derive it, that this will actually be given by 1 minus 4 determinant of phi divided by trace phi whole square. Actually, it is mod, you don't, whatever, yeah, it is whole square. So this is easily, you can find out if you remember that this is given by this from here.
When it will be
derive
0?
that. Huh?
When it will be 0?
When this is perfectly polarized.
How is that? I can see like.
Nah, so basically, when it is completely polarized, then your then your EX/EY star, the time average of this one minus this one, this is the total. This will basically be the same, na? When it is perfectly polarized, you can basically write your ex ey star and ey ex star. You can that will be the sum will of that will essentially be the same as this total thing, because these are the off diagonal terms then, but the off diagonal terms essentially will be the uh, the subtraction. I mean, these will be essentially the same as these terms.
Yes, but why? That is my question.
Hmm? What?
Why is it the case that is my question? Like why the
That
product
you
of
can
the
actually write
diagonal
it down. Na? So you can actually see that when you actually write down the states there, then when you are well, I have to prove this. Simply speaking, I think I think if I see the uh, yeah, 1 minute. So basically, what we are saying is that, see, so essentially the coherency matrix actually what it does is measures the sort of fluctuations in the phases of the components. Okay, so if you have any kind of so when it's a perfectly coherent source, okay, then there is no fluctuation in the phases. Okay, so basically what you will get, so if you think of this as two exey cos delta and the other one as sine delta, then basically you have cos square plus sine square. Okay, so
so
then
that is
that becomes this thing. Okay, so no, okay,
uh,
so one thing you can say now, that I will probably stand corrected, in the sense that if your ex and ui are not the same, then it may not be zero. I mean, it's not that always it will be zero actually. What I'm saying is, see, if you do not have fluctuations, so basically the coherency matrix is a measure of the fluctuations in the phase. Phase one, the delta x delta y. See, if you have constant phase, if you have a constant phase relationship between ex and ey, then it is perfectly polarized. Then there is no question of any. They see, what is the meaning of depolarization? Tell me. Do you understand? I mean, this is a very good question, but can you? Yeah. So when we say polarization, what does it mean? Huh, Hitesh?
yes, sir.
Any?
But, like, are you asking about like what is the meaning of
What
polarization
is
or
the meaning, right? Yeah. So what do you understand? Yeah, this is a very crucial discussion. So yeah, what does polarization mean? When I say something is polarized, what does it mean?
so basically it means that you have this the electric field vector. The oscillation of that is in like the trajectory is fixed.
It's exactly, that is a very important thing you said. It is fixed. It is fixed actually. So that means if I now take this ex ey start term, so that will basically have a cos delta. Okay, and so if it and the other one has a sine delta eyex thing. Okay, now if you have that to be fixed, when we actually squared that, you can actually have a cos square sine square coming, and essentially, okay, that I will say that if ex and ey are same, then that cancels out. So then you have cos square and sine square, and therefore this cross term will vanish. I mean, the determinant will vanish. But it is probably correct to say that it will not be zero. This will be, so what I'm saying is determinant phi is zero for perfectly uh, polarized light if ex and ey are same.
Sir, if we consider the case where we have only ex, that is the light is x polarized.
Hmm.
In that case, my ey components are zero.
But then this is fine. No, ex
So,
square minus ex square.
okay, no,
No,
that
then yeah, that is it. That is
no,
completely fine.
like no,
That is
not that.
perfectly.
If I
Yeah,
have
but
a
that is basically.
linearly polarized
Hmm,
light at 45
hmm,
degrees, that
hmm.
is my ex and ey components are same.
Same, right, right. Right.
Yeah. So
So
in,
basically, yeah. So it will be zero only when these cross term will sort of vanish, and that can only happen. First of all, see, you need completely polarized light. Without complete polarized light, it will never be this thing, because then these are basically going to. So essentially, the phi. Let me just write this is a measure of
sir,
fluctuation.
even if the like off diagonal terms are zero, that won't
No,
ensure
no, no,
that
no, no. Off
determinant
diagonal term
is zero.
zero will not make it zero. Then this will become just 1 0 0 0 something like that. Determinant will not vanish then.
Yes,
Determinant will vanish only if these are same. But the see what I'm trying to say is a necessary condition is the thing has to be polarized, perfectly polarized, but it's not sufficient. Okay, it is not sufficient. Mane sufficient mane it. I mean, if it is not, it is fluctuating, then this will never be zero. Okay, but if it is coherent, I mean, in the sense it's perfectly polarized, when the phase relationship, there is the delta is fixed, then if you have this thing to be same, মানে e0 ex, so basically you will have e0, well, actually if you think of it, Hitesh, you will have e0 ex, e0 ex ey, and ex ey cos square, so it will still be ex square ey square actually. You understand? This will be cos delta, this is sin delta. So when I take
Mhm.
determinant, you will actually have ex square plus ey square. No, it will be zero, na? See, determinant means this minus this, right? Ex square ey square. This will be ex square ey square also, right? Hi, this will be zero. What am I saying? But ये देखो ना ex square ey square, this is also ex square. It is तुम तो प्लस कर रहे हो यार, ये तो multiply ad minus bc, right?
Sir, the means that there will be some phase factor as well, right? Because in your
Uh, no,
ex
in the
star,
sense that
in that
yeah, but
here
the relative
this
phase
phase
is
part cancels. But
the
in
relative phase is
EY
fixed.
star, there will be some phase
Uh,
factor term as
that may be, yeah. I mean, in the sense that if there is some yeah, but see, if there is a fixed phase, if there is no change in the phase, we can always do some rotational thing, na? I mean, we can do a axis transform, right? Rotate the axis and make it zero or something, right? If it's a fixed phase, if it's not changing, right? If it's not changing, if the mutual thing is not changing, then I can always do a rotational transform and make it some fixed thing, is I can just take that out, right? It's only when it is, I mean, if it is like what you know what I'm meaning, right? So see, basically this is like ex square ey square. If these are at perfectly at a fixed phase, okay. So
so can we take a quick short example? I mean, write it down and that would be better.
yeah. So basically, if I think of yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, in the sense of see, if I take 1 0 or something of
Sir, I think the phase factors will actually cancel out. Like if EXEY star has say
it
e
will
to
be
the power
minus
I
45 for the
alpha,
other one.
yeah.
If
Yes.
they have
So
the same phase, that in that case they will vanish. Means if they are linearly polarized but at some angle which is not 45, in that case the phase term would cancel out.
yeah,
No, but because it is EXEY star and now let's see of this. No, think of this. Na. So suppose this is e to the I delta, then this is
yeah,
e to the minus I delta, right? That is a
exactly.
fixed phase. So then when you multiply, it will cancel off, right? You understand what I'm saying? If this is e to the I delta, this will be e to the minus I delta. Because I can always take the phase to be delta, whatever
Yeah,
delta you have, right?
that
So
is
then I will have this as e to I delta. So this is correct. So
okay.
for any kind of perfectly polarized light, it has to be zero.
Okay.
That is very clear. Okay, I think, yeah, I don't see, guys, I have a very little left, but I think let's stop today. Maybe next class I will I'll take one more class where we actually look at some of these measurements, because see, so maybe you guys, see, you who have done this, I don't think you did this in this detail, right? Hitesh, Rohan, all of you. Did you do this
So
in
we
this?
didn't do the coherency matrix part.
You did not do it at all, right?
No, not at all. Sir.
No. So then I think let us stop today because ये discussion हो क्या और भी 1.5 घंटा 1 घंटा या ना, it's not fair. ठीक है? So let us stop today because we have not done Muller at all, but though we have covered almost lot of this stuff, but maybe we will spend some time in doing the measurements also. I mean, how you measure all that. Yeah, I think point ka sphere. छोड़ो, ठीक है, छोड़ो. Maybe we can discuss. I think a good thing will be. Yeah, that is a good exercise. So Hitesh, you guys did this thing, no? That क्या बोलते हैं? Pancharatnam phase you did, right?
No, sir, we didn't. Like it was my last
Okay,
experiment.
fantastic. So Rohan and all you did, no? Rohan, did you do?
No, sir. I did
अबे यार,
SLM.
Sir,
nobody did. Hey, who did? Priyanuj did.
sir.
Who is this?
Oh, Priyanuj.
Priyanuj. Hey, so let us do this. So see, next class Monday, I will do this Muller. Is the Stokes we have not started. Stokes Muller we'll do, and Poincare is sphere. So why don't you, who have done the this thing, the क्या बोलते हैं, the Pancharatnam phase, you give us a short presentation so all of you understand, because that's a fantastic experiment for both understanding Poincare sphere and that experiment.
Sir, at least Monday, I don't think I can because I have a test on Sunday and Monday itself. Like,
Are Monday, when do you
I'm
have the
okay with
test?
it, but
Are
presenting.
Priyanuj, have you forgotten? It will
No,
take
no,
you
but
to share the screen, na? I'm not asking you to make a presentation. You share the screen and show us on
like
PowerPoint.
if it's a short kind of thing.
I'm not telling you to give the whole experimental detail. See, I think, see, I have only Stokes vectors left. Stokes vector, I think most of you have done. This one is good, but we'll continue it slightly more. Okay. Uh, Coherence matrix you guys have not done, which is a good thing that we have covered. But from here, I will basically go to your Stokes vector and all that will not take too much time. So just at the end, maybe see if we have some 15-20 minutes. I'm saying that you just describe that Poincare sphere, Poincare sphere I will mention. But what you did in the Michelson configuration for the क्या बोलता है, the thing, your जो Pancharatnam phase, you can just tell us, no?
Sure, sure. That is the experimental part I can do.
I am not wanting you to give the full presentation. I'm not saying. Okay, but this is very important. This coherency matrix, to understand. And again, these are, in fact, we can also, but I don't know. We are running short of time. I think a very, very good exercise. What will be if we compare the quantum mechanical treatment of density of states with this? Very nice, because you have exactly the same thing as coherency matrix in your description of your mixed states. Very, very similar. But that I don't know. एक full class चला जाएगा. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, it's probably not a great idea. But you understand what I'm saying, na? So these kind of zones and all, these are very similar to what we do in your spinors. Very similar. I mean, it's the stark जो ये element, I mean your experiment, this thing. What was that? To find out the spin. The spin of this Stein-Garlack. So basically, it is nothing but you take the Pauli spin matrices and do things, and eigenstate, eigenstate. Everything is very close to this. But just like we did for the other thing, your Drude model, I think this one has much more. You guys have done it, no? Have you done it? The spin algebra in quantum mechanics?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Huh? So I don't know. Do you want to do a class on that or what? And we can probably do it on a Friday or something, not on a regular class day. You want to do it in the same way that we did for the Drude model?
Yes, sir. It will be good.
It'll be good, na? So maybe next Friday we can do that. So tomorrow, Monday, I will finish the Stokes thing, Stokes Muller, and maybe Priyanuj or whoever has done the Priyanuj. I think you have done it, so you can just present to us what you did in this thing. So because the next whatever we have left, see, I will give you an exercise of the calculating Muller matrix and all, because it is algebra. It is not too complicated. So I will define the Poincare sphere. and then we will basically just tell you how to just do how to calculate Muller matrices, and we will give you an exercise, and then Priyanuj can tell us how the Poincare sphere, what you do. So Priyanuj, one thing only I will request you, uska jo setup hai, that you at least put on a slide, because that will
Yeah,
take, otherwise people will not understand.
that I have. Like I
That
have written it in the report, so it's fine.
so that is with you, right? So that just the setup you put, and just tell us what you, because it's very interesting actually, and it might extend a bit, but ठीक है, जो नहीं रहेंगे, it's okay. This is not part of the thing, but it will be useful for you to understand, I guess. ठीक है? Okay, so let us then, any more questions? Okay, then we will meet on Monday with whatever we said. Okay, ठीक है, चलो.